Hey, everybody, this is Reanimated Podcast. This is episode 310, and I'm Stuart, one of your hosts. And joining me on the other coast of this fine nation is the intriguing H.A. Conrad.
I guess that works. That definitely works. Hello.
Hi.
How are you this fine day?
You know, it's a foggy morning, kind of morning when you could walk right up on a walker, not know it was there unless it started to growl right after it came out of cover. One of those kind of mornings.
Oh, that's a little disturbing.
Kind of
But
like Silas had to deal with in the completely silent parade float room until the zombies decided they wanted to all moan.
yeah, it was the same kind of an idea. I hear you on that
Okay.
one.
Okay. I mean, this is nothing new for Walking Dead. They definitely turn off and
Change.
on
Yeah.
the moaning. But
Yeah.
yes, it's a nice morning, very foggy. How are you doing?
Kind of beautiful here. So getting into the holiday spirit. The tree is all lighted up at Rockefeller. So it's kind of, and it's been honestly like an ideal couple of days just to kind of walk around the city a little bit. So that's been kind of nice to enjoy. Though I will say, I don't know, we'll have to see if there's a cold snap or not, but it's feeling not quite December-ish, but I have a feeling it'll kick in pretty soon. So, but we'll figure that out. And just in time for my Anna and the Apocalypse viewing, so that'll be good.
In our hunt for zombie news this week, I did see several, at least two different articles suggesting that folks should watch Anna and the Apocalypse to get into the Christmas spirit.
Well, I was kind of sad that it wasn't on the New York Times recommended holiday movies. Like they come out with a thing every year, and maybe it's just like newer stuff, but it wasn't there.
There's
And I
a
feel
lot of new ones this year, it seems.
there are, but I feel like they missed an opportunity there. It's a cult favorite, in my opinion. And so anyway, I still think it's good fun. But
Yeah,
I know I'm preaching to the converted here.
you are, except I don't watch Anna and the Apocalypse every Christmas. I probably ought to. And we were just talking before we started recording. I've been kind of getting some of that Christmas viewing out of Hawkeye, the series this year, I feel like. So that's working for me right now.
Yeah, I've been enjoying that show a lot, and a lot more than I thought I would. So far I only watched the first one, so I guess I shouldn't put too much onto it yet. But I thought it was like a lot of fun. I thought the script was great, and I really like the cast, and it's got a good sense of humor going on, so that's kind of great.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll have to circle back once I finish watching more of it. But so far, I'm really enjoying it.
I had that on while Holly was working on a jigsaw puzzle the other day, and when the episode ends, she's like, "Wait, that was a TV show? Isn't that guy like a movie star?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is the beautiful thing about Disney Plus right now."
Right. This is what they do. Today we've got like one little news item. I think because it's the holidays, there isn't that much out there going on, but usually that it picks up again in January. So there was just one little news tidbit about the director of Train to Busan and Peninsula just put out a little something about a potential third movie.
It's really tenuous.
It's very tenuous. I mean, I'll admit, this is like to even write this article, they were putting a lot into this.
Again, multiple people, multiple outlets decided this was article worthy because Slash Film had it, and then another outlet had it. But he's basically saying like, yeah, I could do another movie about in the Train to Busan universe. I'm way too busy to do that. But yeah, I've got ideas.
Right. And there's just like potential collaborations and things that I just think people are just, really, really just getting a little too ahead of themselves. But there it is. That's the news we have for you today. Sorry. But we are recapping the next couple episodes of World Beyond for The Walking Dead, and we got a note about one of our friend of the show, Kevin, who has watched this and had commented on this stuff previously, and I think we are not the only ones feeling some frustration, and not to show my hand too much, but I felt a lot of frustration watching these two
Yeah,
episodes. I don't know how you felt.
these were just clogged. I feel like there was just 10 pounds of crap in a five pound bag for these episodes, and it wasn't good crap, you know what I mean?
No, I
But these are
think
both
they're
directed by Aisha Tyler, so I'm conflicted. One's written by Raina McClendon, and then the second one is written by Maya Goldsmith. There's a lot of a lot of X chromosomes going on in these episodes, and I wanted to like them, but I no. Overall, I would say I was not a huge fan of either of them.
So as I was watching them, and there were moments that you and I talked about in the first two episodes that were like, there were these moments that were just really like, these scenes just felt like a struggle, and I was kind of feeling that with a lot of different scenes in this. I feel like the storyline and just sort of where they're trying to go with it is really struggling and just plotting. And it felt like, to me at least, it felt like these two episodes were like 4 hours long, because they
Oh
just
yeah.
didn't, the pacing felt very just slow, and even just sort of even with like some of the characters, some of the things you've already established about them felt very like trite and tropey. And I feel like we'd already covered this ground before. So it almost felt like repetitive. And then there's sort of the things, the intrigue and the mystery that they keep trying to tease, but I just don't feel like the pacing allows it to really be teased. Like it just feels like they're not, it feels like not lazy, but just it feels like it's not going anywhere. I guess it just kind of feels like it's in like a rut.
They try
At
to
least
throw us a twist in this first episode, well, the third episode of the series of the season, with identifying who Asha and her brother. I've already forgotten her brother's name. I don't know that he's going to be a big character because he's kind of fallen out by the fourth episode.
right. Right.
But Asha and her brother get introduced early on in this episode, at least through the intro, like the cold open. They're ritualistically killing zombies and then doing weird stuff to them. And
Well, they're
yeah,
doing the flowers in the eyes, which is, actually a funerary tradition. For
scooping out the eyeballs. It's a
I don't know about the eyeballs part, but putting flowers in the eyes is actually like a funerary tradition in a couple of cultures. But I this was actually the scenes with them and with Elton and Percy, who have now made a reappearance. Those to me were some of the bright spots. This actual thing to me was one of the better parts of
yeah.
these two
Well,
episodes.
both of
But
these episodes are also trying to do like way too many storylines too, right?
yeah, maybe that's the problem.
We're juggling Elton and Percy. We're juggling Hope and Leo and Huck, or just sometimes just Huck and Dennis. We've also got like Silas and Dennis, and we've got Iris and Felix and Will, and yada da da. And it's there's way too much going on in these two episodes for them to have a flow. So certainly
Yeah,
the fourth one is worst.
right. The fourth one is even worse, which is hard to say. But I feel like if they had focused on one or two of these storylines, maybe it could have gone a little bit better. It didn't feel like there was really necessarily a need to juggle between the Silas and CR story. I don't know, that like it just felt like they should have chosen and moved forward. I kind of felt like part of why they kept the Silas storyline in here for these episodes was so that they could refer to him in other episodes, to remind you that he's out there and that this is a key thing, which is kind of where they wrap up at the end of the fourth episode. But it just felt like too much to keep track of, and then none of them are really moving forward in a good way, in my opinion. And so much of the storyline with Huck and her mother, and Huck and Felix, and Huck and Hope, and the whole storyline about Huck in general, just about this sort of soldier who's fallen out of favor with the CR, so had to kind of do this mission to redeem herself. And there's clearly something to do with her husband or whatever he is. Like that all felt very like jammed in, and kind of like, they didn't really necessarily they had like a couple of flashbacks and things like that, but I don't know. To me, that was one of the bigger problems with this, right? Like, at least from my point of view, it's like, this seems like they keep throwing these little like hints in about it, and it probably would have made more sense if they had gone a little bit more straightforward as opposed to kind of flipping back and forth.
Well,
With
flipping is the operative word here
yeah,
because they're getting ready for her to flip, and they're just laying like
yeah,
this is. I'm sure that's the thinking is they're laying the groundwork for Huck to become a goodie before she dies at the end of the
right,
season, which is
yeah,
still my projection. Um,
yeah. I think you're right.
and like so yeah there it's more in the I think the second episode that we're talking about today that the focus is more on her like being everybody's whipping boy at this point, but she has to go to her tribunal where they issue her clemency, and one of the things they bring up in every episode it feels like is that she did something really bad, and it was her and Dennis and they both did something bad, and they just keep referring to this like, oh, your sin in the past, and this is why Dennis is on like culling station duty. He was pulled from active duty, they reveal, I think, in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she had to do this mission and she barely has gotten back what she lost, as her mother says in the fourth episode. It's just like nonstop referring to this thing that we have no idea what it is, and I also find that kind of frustrating. Just as
Well,
like, just tell me already what it is, what they do.
well, yeah, and it's like it's almost like they go around it so many times that that's one of the most annoying pieces of this. It's like nobody in this normal, like somebody would refer to it like more than just that bad thing you did, right? I don't know. It just seems dumb to me, or like even to give it like call it the linguini incident or whatever it might be, something more than how they kind of keep going around the issue. But so there is that. As I said, I think that the Percy and Elton storyline was probably to me one of the better ones, because you see a lot of the conflict in how Percy is sort of going out into this world and Elton is going out into this world. And Percy's been out there in this world, not safe for a really long time. So seeing those contrasts between them is kind of cool. Though I find him
Yeah,
to be annoying. I find
well,
Percy to be annoying, but
yeah,
like whatever.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, his actions in both of these episodes are borderline disastrous. I mean, maybe not like the second one where he's about to assassinate Huck is maybe not disastrous. It wouldn't be disastrous, but we kind of like Huck because of how, in a way, because of how charismatic. Oh gosh, what's her name? The woman who plays Huck is.
it's
Annette Mahendru.
yeah.
She has brought a lot of like kind of, well, in the first season it was a lot of that like forced joviality that we had talked about, and in this season it's more of like, oh, don't be mean to me sort of face, but
Yeah.
she's still likable. Like, I don't know what it is, like she and I'm watching these episodes, and by the second one we're talking about, I don't know, I keep bringing up the fourth one as opposed to the third one, but in that episode she is getting beat up on all sides by everybody. People want to murder her, like multiple people want to
Mm-hmm.
murder her. And I'm just like, I mean, Percy, I get it. Like, yeah, you shot him and you killed his uncle, but why does Felix want to murder Huck? Other than like the principle of betrayal. Yes, she betrayed them. Yes, she sliced his Achilles, but I don't think he even knows that was her. He thought it was barbed wire at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she took Hope, but Hope is fine. Clearly, Hope is fine and asking them to come with her. So maybe I've just forgotten like a major plot point, but why is Felix so bent on murdering her?
Well, I mean, she betrayed him. She was like his best friend and he trusted her. And then the whole ploy at the end where she takes Hope and Hope agrees to go with her. That is why I think he's so upset with her.
Yeah, but
I think he also,
murder.
but I think he also has some idea that she had something to do with Will, or that there's something nefarious going on. So I don't know. I think he just feels completely betrayed by somebody who he loved and who he considered to be his best friend. So I think that that's part of it.
I mean, I get
But
being mad. I 100% get being mad. There was a betrayal, and like I said, is the principle of betrayal enough to justify murder? Because that's what he holds that zombie over her, in like episode four, and you're like, oh, if the clothes on that zombie had ripped, she would have been bitten on the face.
right.
Like this show, that scene, I know I'm 2 episodes away, but that scene where he just like throws the zombie to the side and it just stays there growling on the ground while he has like a final
Yeah.
epithet to Huck, like, I'm gonna kill you later. Zombie doesn't get back up. He has the time to deliver his line and then step on its head while it
Yep.
just lies there. They've really made zombies lame on this.
Well, there's also the weird thing where suddenly all the zombies' heads are easily crushable all the time.
Yeah. Oh, like with the
So
end of a baseball bat, even just like
yeah, it just
poke.
feels like they not only are they crushable, but they kind of implode with like the barest touch, which is really kind of odd. But that aside, I hear you. Like it does feel like his interaction with her. Well, part of it, I was also thinking about the fact that she is this source and one of their only sources of true information from inside the CR.
Which is her
So
selling point to them too.
which to me is like, well, why are you like threatening to take this person out, because this is your only chance to get some real information, and as much as it might be a pain to get it from her, she's been showing sort of a bit more. Obviously she went against what she was supposed to do to get to bring Hope out to meet everybody. She's kind of been doing things that are not necessarily in line with what the CR would want. So I don't know. I agree with you. I think his I'm going to kill her is an overreaction. But then you've also got, I don't know, like the Percy thing where, yeah, he's got more of a reason to kill her because she killed his uncle and shot him. And like, so we know that that happened. And it makes sense since that was like his only sort of solid person in the world. So I understand that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But there again, this is sort of the bad sort of storytelling that I think we've seen, a little overly dramatic. And then, I mean, I'm hoping in the next couple episodes this moves a little bit more. It felt like they were just trying to establish all these like kind of weird things. So you've got Percy and Elton. And we see a little bit of them. I did very much enjoy Elton's like escape with his corduroy armor. I thought
That's the
that was
hero
pretty.
of this, the hero of this episode,
Is
episode
that
three.
that was the best thing. And also I loved the walkers where Elton and Percy kind of land into this weird little botanical garden of walkers, which was kind of, the makeup was great with that. I thought that was fun. And then I thought that their
I did feel
interaction.
like I could see the wires a little bit. Not that they were literal wires, but I was just like, those are ghillie suits.
Yeah, I
You
know,
know,
I know. But anyway, I mean, I thought that was, but to me, that was the best sort of interactions. And part of this was just with Percy and Elton kind of you know, in this interaction with these two people they know that nothing about, that are kind of um uh they're kind of messing with them. They're very much like um
well,
they're pulling.
it's unnecessary. Yeah, honestly, that's not like a good selling point for this episode. Is how much these two, it's Asha and her brother, decide to
Yeah.
just literally mess with their heads. And part of it is justified because this is another area where Percy is not helping.
No.
When Elton tries to talk him out of conning them and goes down and well, he goes down and like walks right up to him as opposed
Yeah.
to staying at a distance. If I was him, I would have stayed outside their little fence of hubcaps
Yeah,
and
and
just,
kind of talk to them,
yeah,
right?
but in a way that he wouldn't have been at knife's point. But then Percy like screws it up by not very subtly robbing them of turnips or whatever. And then the chase happens, and I get it. And knowing that Asha and her brother know who they are the whole time, it turns out that's why they chased them. Otherwise, I'm not sure that they would have chased a turnip thief who got away with
Yeah,
zero
probably not.
turnips, right?
Yeah, no.
But then when the zombies come out of the woods and they kind of sit there and watch Asha and her brother dealing with them, this show is doing too many of these weird flourishy zombie kills. Like it
They
keeps
are.
happening. They're doing leg sweeps, and Felix does one
Hmm.
in episode 4. Asha does one in this
In this
episode.
one, yep.
And also when you look at that scene of her like doing twirly zombie kills, followed by episode 4, which she's like, yeah, I just have to take dialysis every day. And I'm like, something about this isn't adding up. You know
Yep.
what I mean? So but I am just as a general note for this whole season is like, okay, guys, we don't have to sweep the leg on every zombie fight. Can we please just
Well,
keep it simple?
and in this particular zombie fight, the thing that made me kind of think it was a little weirder was because you've basically got them coming from all these different places. Like you don't know whether that ground is actually covering another zombie, right? So
Right.
it's a very risky move to be making.
Putting your hand
Um,
on the ground during a zombie
right,
fight.
right.
Yeah.
Just and putting yourself on the ground, like who knows? Like as we saw with with Elton, like they were just coming up, they were kind of coming up from everywhere, and it felt like the whole ground was them. But in any case, I just thought this was the whole reveal about his little suit and how she was about to like take his arm off. He's like, no, it's like
It's
corduroy armor,
what
was
is he
kind of
screams?
awesome.
He screams something like
Where it doesn't tear, kids wear it doesn't something like silly
kids
like
wear
that.
it, they don't tear it. Yeah, I think that was
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But then
That
and then
was
she
fantastic.
she steals it, so that's kind of amazing. I kind of love that.
Yeah, I mean they're shipping. We're shipping these two. They're shipped.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
ship
absolutely.
has sailed because he did have the hots for Hope, but now Hope and well maybe
Yeah.
Mason, maybe somebody else. I don't know who else she could hook up with
Well,
on
and
the
also Hope killed his mom, so I think that's hard for him to get over that
show. True.
point.
Yes, they're
So
still having issues. I forgot. Yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
But anyway, so they go through that whole thing, and this is a bit of the lighter side, just in that they're bringing them back, although they make them think that they're gonna die, so they're wearing like gas masks just for show to bring them back to the ranch, so to speak. So that's kind of,
So
that's
yeah, this is episode 3, and they wheel them into the town where Indira is boss, and she's actually their mom. But then, okay, so they're broad daylight. They're brought back. Why doesn't Felix know that Percy is there in episode 4? Is Felix doing something far away? Because
I
there's that
don't
scene where he's like, I could have sworn I just saw Percy, but he's dead. I'm like, what? No, he was. They all.
Yeah, they don't do that. Was also a thing I was questioning, because I guess they don't do a reunion with them, but it makes it weird that he doesn't know that they're there, right? I don't know. Again, kind of strange,
Yeah,
but
I mean, not really even worth taking too much time over, but I was just like, what? I could have sworn. And then I guess so that's kind of, yeah, Percy and Elton are now back in the fold. And Hope, meanwhile, is like going to class, having debates with Mason in chemistry about fermentation and decay. I thought that was actually kind of interesting.
mhm.
Um, but then she's like turning down invitations to go get wasted in the sub basement or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah, I mean, I would have been fine without her going down there, but also I know that that's not how these kind of shows work.
Well, it's not, and I mean, I think they're trying to. I mean, they're trying to sort of show you a little bit about how she's changed, because this kind of gathering is exactly the kind of thing she would have organized in like her prior existence, and did. Like she used to make champagne and bootleg liquor and all that stuff. So, I think it's kind of showing that to some extent she's evolved to now she's kind of trying to embrace it, and I think most of it is that she's trying to find out more information about everything of this in the CR. But she also, her mind is always on her sister, and on Felix, and just how to get them, and find them. And so she's, the thing about this whole thing with Hope is, as we pointed out before, everybody knows who she is in this little community. And so it's not exactly like she can be stealthy, or like it won't be noticed that she's kind of asking questions or taking note of things. There's definitely a conflict, just in terms, even with the professor talking about fermentation. There's that whole thing where it's like she's not paying attention, so she's going to get in trouble or whatever. And then she pulls out this whole like very witty thing that she's talking about, this idea, and then shares it with her dad. And like you can definitely see that there's pieces of this whole thing that she finds attractive in terms of what they seem like their mission is. But you know, the part that is hard for me to get over is that even when she goes to Huck to try to go and get her sister, it's not clearly, you can't get out of this place easily. Um, and then even the fact that Huck does this, when if she had waited one day, it would have made more sense, because she actually had duty, like guard duty, to go out. I don't know. Like how are you feeling about that? I just felt like there's like lots of things that don't totally add up here.
Well, Huck gets yelled
Um,
at by Leo in public. After, like, Leo is also just like a ticking time bomb. Like, how has he
yeah,
survived this long in the CR? He's
yeah.
yelled, like last episode or whatever, he yells at Kublek, which
Hmm.
doesn't go well. And so this episode, he's like, I'm going to go and yell at her daughter,
Yeah,
who's
that
like
makes sense.
who's a Marine. I'm just going to walk up to her on the sidewalk and start to yell at her about
My
safety.
daughter. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And but Huck, you know, unlike Kublek, is just you see her being conflicted and taking it all and never really firing back, right? And then so
Yeah.
when Hope comes and yells at her too, um, it obviously kind of, I mean, she sits on it for a minute because she's supposed to be having a date night with Dennis. And then eventually, I don't remember what episode it happens in, but eventually it's like, yeah, I'm sorry, date's canceled. I'm not getting dressed into my date clothes. I'm getting dressed into my uniform and going out.
Well, and again, let me point out that even between these two, they talk about that bad thing that
That,
happened.
but she calls it the
Yeah,
thing you did, right? Like,
yeah, yeah. So maybe she took the rap for him. It sounds like maybe that's what happened.
but yeah, they're
But
not even saying what it was. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
maybe if it's that bad, yeah, you can imagine people will, but like you use euphemisms to like not have to really say. You remember when you screwed the cheerleader or whatever it was? I'm sure it was probably worse than that. Uh, but
I think they stole the last case of ringdings. Definitely ringdings. What do you
I
think?
mean, yeah, it could be also like Dennis is in the fourth episode where he's like playing camp counselor or RA for Silas in his dorm room is like all hubcaps and band posters and guitars on the walls.
Yeah,
What is Dennis? What makes Dennis tick? What
yeah,
could he have done? Did he like steal somebody's bootleg copy of a Grateful Dead concert? I mean, I don't know, but he's feeling like a certain type of dude he's probably 10 years old, 10 years too old to be
correct.
in
I
the
felt
color
the
space.
same. I felt the same. And I also this is just an aside about Silas, but Silas's hair is driving me crazy in this.
You want to put it up? Give him a
I want to
bun.
put it up or I want him to cut it off, but it is a pretty big liability if he's doing stuff like clearing stuff. And every time he tries to like take out, even though their little heads are exploding very easily with this little tool he has, it's like always in it, like he can't see anything. Um, it just feels like it's always getting in the way. Like at least do a top knot or something, something. Just try, just sorry. That was like one thing where I was just like, why? Why is it just all in his face? Just feels like he could get taken out with his peripheral vision that obstructed. So
He just, you know,
rant
that's
over.
that's how he wants to go. Like my yeah. I think it's fine. Like he kind of shakes his head every so often after a zombie kill to like get it back out of his face. It's not bothering me as much as it's bothering you, but I hear you.
And his hand, he's got like an open wound and like somehow has managed not to get super infected or like actively infected with this virus, which it feels like, I mean, it's when they show like that what they're stitching up, it's like unbelievable that it has that it hasn't totally like turned into gangrene or something.
And how appropriate that like he cut himself to give himself that, right? That was like his way of, I don't know, summoning the CR to let Percy and
Yeah,
Elton get
something
away.
like that. Yeah.
Um, and he's like, yeah, I'm not just gonna cut myself a little bit, and I'm not gonna do it on like the top of my forearm or somewhere else that I don't have to touch things with all the time. No, it's gonna be on the palm of my hand, and
Right.
you're gonna really have to look at this for a while. Yeah, but that's in episode 4. They I think that's kind of everything that I wanted to say about episode 3. Yeah, like Hope plays Jenga with a blindfold on. Who cares?
Yeah.
She meets a guy called Ian who delivers some sort of like socially awkward statement that's
Yep.
supposed to just make us think like, yeah, these kids are just they're just nice, smart kids. They're some of them. Mason is from the CR and he gets to go home every 2 weeks, but he's not allowed to talk about where it is. Yada
Mm-hmm.
yada. Um, and they're all like paying lip service to the loss of Omaha too, which is just like, yeah, we all know better. So it's doesn't really do much for me in the story to see that these. Well, I guess what it does is it lets you know that almost nobody knows what really happened there.
Right. And then the story that has been floating around, people have bought it and believe it.
Yeah,
Pretty much with no question. And they all feel like it's, and Omaha is 100,000 people. That's a lot of people to lose. And that's a number that keeps getting brought up throughout this. Like when people, like when Iris and others are talking about it, they've they in both these episodes, they bring up the fact that it's 100,000 people, and why would they do that several times?
Yeah.
So I feel like at some point we have to find out why they did it.
This
But
is
for
the
now,
big question.
in addition to whatever it was that Huck and Dennis did that was bad, this is the other mystery. Is what happened in Omaha and why you would take out this population center of survivors, because that doesn't, and resources, because that doesn't totally make sense. So we got that going on.
Much of episode 4 is, Hope and Huck have arrived in the settlement, and there's already a scene of Percy looking out the window at Huck, and you're just like, oh my god, no, this is what's going to happen next. It's a lot of like Hope trying to persuade Iris to come back, and Felix to come back to the research center with them, or near them, like as Huck lays it out later. She's like, no, you won't come with us, we'll just drop you off outside the door and you can walk in like you found it by yourselves.
Because that's going to go over really well, that they found it, right? The
Maybe.
secret research facility that nobody's supposed to know where it is. So how is that going to fly?
You wander long enough.
I don't know. But then this is also, I found these scenes between Iris and Hope just to be completely tedious and awful.
Very bad. Very bad.
So like, and they say these weird things where it's like, oh, why didn't you tell me about this? It's like, you just got reunited. Like, why?
Well, that's their last conversation in the episode.
I know.
And they have like 2 other conversation scenes in this episode. And in those scenes, it's not even Hope. It's Hope is laying everything on the table. But Iris decides that Hope is compromised, basically. Like, because she's like come to the CRM, and Iris has already laid out her declaration of war against the CRM.
Even though they don't know it yet. Okay.
Her war of 2 on a million. And so she's like, oh, well, she doesn't say anything, say that out loud, but she does start to clam up and doesn't, and like,
true,
doesn't talk to Hope about everything. And so, but that's dumb. It's not like half of this show is about their sibling bond. And I guess they do get back to that by the end of this episode. But watching these 2 not be on the same page is not enjoyable TV. Like, we need them, like, they have to be on the same page because they're dumb anyway. Like, can we please not like drag this out? Let's just keep
agreed. And that's exactly the term. It's that it feels like it's being dragged out for the sake of something. I don't even know what, but it is not adding anything to the storyline, to the characters. It's just making it annoying to watch. So that's where I am on these episodes.
So Felix, it is annoying to watch. So Felix and Iris both refuse to go to the research facility because we'd be stupid to go there not knowing how we could get out again. But I mean, we're looking at Hope and Huck, who are out right now. Like, they snuck out. I mean, maybe they wouldn't be able to do that again. Maybe that would be tough. But it seems like it's doable, guys. Why are you? I mean, they don't trust Huck either. And it's like, all right, Hope, you're in there with Dad, who is just yelling at everybody. He's probably going to get himself killed pretty soon. He's 100% going to die this season.
Oh yeah, he's got to be. I mean, they're already hinting at it multiple times. It's sort of shocking that he's still alive anyway.
He is a Duke Leto Atreides if I ever saw one, for sure.
Yep. And then the other thing that I found to be tedious plus odd, we've got this whole sort of deal going on with this little community. Again, it doesn't make sense to me, the fact that they even have this deal, though they do try to have some explanation in the interactions with like Elton and stuff like that for when they're kind of shipping him, and is it Asha?
Mm-hmm.
When they're kind of shipping that, you have some explanation sort of why the community exists, but it still doesn't make sense given what we know of the CR. That they would even broker this treaty seems weird to me, that they would allow this community to exist outside of their group of power, because everything that we have seen shows that they basically seem to just kind of plow through and command complete fealty from people, and to bring them in as part of their fold. So that whole storyline seems very weak and strange to me. The other thing that seemed kind of odd to me is that if you do have this kind of fringe little community, you would have a better hiding place than behind like a weird curtain or tapestry. Like that isn't even a hiding place. That's like another room. What like people could just kind of walk into there. And I'm referring to when the
Yeah.
colonel comes in all looking for her missing soldier.
Well, that was like
Um,
a no notice. Maybe they do have better hiding places, but that's like by the time that they knew she was coming, like they were in that room and they had nowhere else to go. Perhaps.
Perhaps, but it's like, gosh, have like a priest hole or something in the base, like something.
Yeah.
But
Also, like
anyway,
the dialysis being hidden in that little shack of sticks, which isn't really hard to find. Like Elton finds it
pretty
no problem.
quickly.
Like while he's having hallucinations about his dead mother,
Yeah.
like he's like, oh yeah, there's a shack. Uh, and I'm waiting for the dialysis angle and the fact that it's Indira and not Asha. I'm waiting
Right.
for all of this to mean anything because we don't know these characters. So now we know one
Right.
of
So
them has an illness, like kidney failure, I guess, right? Is what it basically has to be.
yeah, and it's like, but that's the other thing. It's like, okay, so what does that mean? Like it again, you're right. We haven't learned enough about this character, these characters, first of all, to really care. Or at least not enough for me to care. But for it to make sense that this would be I mean, obviously having any kind of a chronic illness where you need treatment like this would be
Yeah.
a problem in this world.
And we
But
saw this with the savior storyline with Sherry's sister being diabetic and needing insulin, and so they relied on the saviors to get insulin. And in this
yeah,
case, it's where we're going to have to rely on the CR to get
this machine and
dialysis
yeah,
stuff. I'm not sure exactly what all goes into that, but so it is that dynamic. Okay, so that's established. That's why they need the CR for Indira maybe to survive.
right. But why the CR would agree to this with so much leverage seems so much leverage that could be used for their own benefit seems a little odd again. But
Yeah, the only reason I
um,
can think of is if they're like one of those, they're like keeping the settlement of potential shit stirrers out there so that they know where
maybe.
all the shit stirrers are, you know. Like
Maybe. And then the last thing that kind of comes up in this whole episode is that the whatever the little unit that Silas is a part of, um, that is somehow key. Will says that there's a plan that they can basically take down the whole CR. They can do whatever they can figure out how to get everybody out by using the little sort of like site that Silas is at somehow. We don't yet know what this plan entails. We just know that it's somehow key to whatever is next. So I'm sure they will reveal that maybe in this episode, but in the next couple episodes. But
huh. What we do know is that they have fireworks, they have power, they have explosives. So
true.
at least the explosives might be what Will's thinking of.
They also have vehicles
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they have more access to CR because of where they are and what they are. So and then one of the things that they are using, and I mean, these are the sort of bright spots actually where Silas is and what they are doing is some
Mm-hmm.
of the more interesting things to me because basically they're luring all these groups of walkers in and they're destroying them in a methodical way. And they have somehow like a homing beacon on the ones that they bring in or something
Well,
that
that was one of Leo's devices that they
right.
actually go to some amount of risk to recover it rather than blowing it up.
Right. So that's to gather information on the walkers and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you know, they do have a system here, and it seems to be like, oh, well, this makes sense, and that's kind of cool stuff to learn about. So I do like that aspect of it, the fact that they're doing this kind of methodical, like just trying to clear out some of the walkers to make things a little less dangerous.
Yeah.
So I do like that, but you know, it's still a little bit, I don't know. It's not enough of it and not enough of it in this episode anyway
It's also
to make
just,
it
yeah, true. I agree with you. And it's funny because Silas, this whole episode has been like in the beginning, he's kind of spacing out, looking at helicopters and at this weird water tower. And then he like tries to leave and gets caught by his buddies and made to go to the parade, as they call it.
yeah, the hazing ritual that they
and
have.
and he's had a couple of scenes with Dennis. Like in the beginning, Dennis is like, "When this is over, you're gonna come with me, and you're like, oh no, he's getting punished. I actually thought this was great. Then he's just stitching up his hand and being really gentle with him and talking to him and like
Yeah,
treating
so
him
I
like
thought
a
that was
person.
good.
That was good. And then by the end of the episode, or closer to the end of the episode, you've got another scene when it's more like Dennis in his dorm room with the hubcaps on the wall, listening to rock and roll, and he's like, "Kid, you only get one screw up. That you just had it." And I'm like, Silas has literally been screwing up the entire episode. I don't know why
Right.
you feel like he's only screwed up once. He's like spacing out during a really high stakes mission. He's trying to leave. He's like not accepting the overtures of the rest of the gang to be one of them. Like, to me, Silas is clearly not a good recruit for this culling station, and they should probably throw him back where they got him.
Right.
But nobody seems to be picking up on that.
Well, and it's also there's definitely similarities between this conversation with him and the conversation the colonel has with the girl's dad, with Leo, where it's like, okay, you get one more shot, and in both cases, both of them have been screwing up continually. So to say that it's like one more chance for both of them is kind of, and they're both doing kind of similar things, which is bucking the system that's in place. And as far as anybody knows, other than say maybe the colonel, the whole point of the CR is to keep people safe. So it's just more the people that are challenging that status quo that seem to be a risk to it as a whole, basically, which makes you sort of draw conclusions about what might have happened in Omaha. So I guess that in some ways they're trying to sort of have those parallels happen. And had the episodes not been so like incredibly slow going and a slog, maybe I would be more inclined to be like, yeah, about that. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Percy in this episode also has like broken into the weapons shed, stolen a rifle, and is trying to murder Huck. And Will intervenes along with Felix eventually. And at the end of the episode, Iris and Percy are having a moment, and he's like, you know what? She shouldn't be allowed to walk around like what she did didn't matter. And I'm listening to him say that, and I'm like, dude, you used to rob people on the road with your
right.
uncle all the time. You don't think any of those people died as a result of you taking their food and
Because,
everything they had?
well, and not just that, but like in the case where they were scamming Hope and Iris in their group, like Iris almost died because of what they did. So like, come on. I don't believe that he's as pure as the driven snow. He is quite pale, actually. But
But that's just such a BS line,
yeah,
where we're supposed to think that he's like this unabashed good guy when he was not. He was, and like they even refer back to it one episode before where he's like, yeah, we can con these people easily. We can take all their stuff. It won't be a problem. So I'm not sure that I want to. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the show doesn't want us to feel completely sympathetic to Percy, and maybe Iris is falling for a bad boy, and it'll end up going one way or another, I guess. So we'll see.
I also fully do not believe that he would have like stopped. Like the guy has been kind of lonely for a while. I just don't think that he wouldn't have like kind of gone through with some kind of interaction with Iris. I just don't buy it here.
He does have like a fairly significant bullet wound in his upper torso, so maybe he doesn't have it in him, literally.
Maybe, but I don't know. I just feel like he would have overcome the pain of that in order to knock boots a bit. I don't know.
Her reaction to when he's like, excuse me, I have to go, after they have one kiss, and she kind of like touches her lips and looks thoughtful, but it's almost like the longing version of that. And I'm like, don't you feel like you just got walked out on by a boy who you were like saying, here I am, and he leaves. I don't know. I was like,
and he's like, no thanks. Like it's kind of a big rejection. It's not.
Yeah, as a former teen, I would say that would, yeah, I'd probably
That
be
would
like
suck.
going fetal and rocking back and forth and be like,
I know.
oh, I'm terrible.
Listen to some very sad music. I don't know.
Yep.
Like,
and finally we have the Kublek apology video. And Huck tries to like ask her about some of the details that she's like, oh, I hear you were saying that you were airlifting out survivors from Omaha. Give me the list of their names. Which is just kind of like I guess only your kid could be that much of a jerk to you.
right.
And Kublek sets her back and is just like, listen, you are not out of the woods yet, kid.
Yep. And that's confidential information.
That
That
thing
is,
you did still hovers over us all because
those ring dings were vital to the community. Vital.
Yep.
They were the
And then
last
they've
ring
had a
dings
couple
ever.
flashbacks of Huck's river journey too,
Mm-hmm.
like being found on the raft outside of Omaha. Like, do you feel like they overdid her? I mean, she cut her own face, but the breaking of the arm, does
Like,
that have to happen?
why would you need to do that? That seems weird, like a very strange detail. I mean, I think it's enough that she's dehydrated and kind of beaten up, right? Like,
Yeah,
what was the purpose of giving her a pretty significant, I mean, it almost looks like a compound fracture. It's a pretty bad break, what they do. And I mean, I know it's to show how much she's done to kind of restore her reputation here and maybe how much she sacrificed because of Dennis and just that her mom is the one who help do this. I don't know, but it still feels kind of unnecessary and a very big risk because she could die.
absolutely.
Which I think is, I mean, obviously that's kind of what they're going for is to show that, but it just seems like I think you could have done what you did without breaking her arm. But
Yeah, that felt like a little more than necessary for me too. And
and also risking like mission failure were she to die, because
right,
if she's your big linchpin and you're kind of, you know, putting her out there, like if the whole success of the mission is based upon whether she can become a successful mole or not, this just seems like an odd decision to make strategically. But
well, maybe we'll never understand it until we get the finally the flashback about the great ring ding. What's a ring ding? It's not a font on Microsoft.
no, a ring ding is a delicious, or used to be a delicious little, I don't know if they probably still make them. They used to be in these little foil packets, but they're basically like chocolate cake covered with chocolate frosting with like a little middle inside. So almost like a Hostess cupcake, but not
That's
a
what's
cup.
coming to mind. Okay.
Yeah, it's not, it's almost like a hockey puck shaped treat. But it's I'm teasing. Maybe not ring dings, maybe Twinkies, maybe something else, maybe Mountain Dew. We'll see. We'll
Well,
see.
oh yeah. Where's the yeah? There hasn't been much in the way of product placement this season.
No.
Which they had that. You're referring to Mountain Dew because of that, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that was quite overt. If they're going to do it, they should do it in the research facility where they still probably have access to things like the Mountain Dew that was. But yeah, I guess we that's kind of everything that's happened in these two episodes. We'll be next time talking about what is a quarter voix,
Yep.
quarter voix, whatever that is, and who are you?
Yep.
And these are both like what's interesting about these episodes is they're just taking two in a row, same director each one. And I don't know, maybe that was for COVID or just convenience. So the next two are going to be directed by Heather Capiello, and then written by Ben Sokolowski and Rohit Kumar. And we'll get back to those, I guess, next time on the show.
Yeah, and if you do have observations, we'd love to hear them and, commiserate or disagree with us. Maybe some people think that this is great. And I should say that you and I are not the demographic that this is going for, but
Yeah.
I am hard pressed to think that the YA demographic would be into this either. So I'm just, throwing that out there. But if you do have things to share, please send us an email, reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com, or on the Twitters, reanimatedpcast, or you can leave a note on the website, reanimatedpodcast.com.
Yeah, you did it.
I did it without stumbling. This is a first.
300 episodes later.
And I got it, finally. So anyway, but until next time, thank you so much for listening, and ciao.
Alrighty, bye.